The Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. And what Jake Morrison saw made his blood run cold. The fourth planet that should have been green and alive was covered in orange flames. Smoke clouds drifted up from. The surface, like the world itself, was bleeding. Around the dying planet, 12 massive alien ships moved in slow circles like giant metal vultures. "My God," whispered Lisa Turner from her communications station. She was still picking up signals from the surface, but now they were mostly screams and explosions. Danny Cole worked quickly at his navigation controls. His face was white as he counted the enemy ships. Each Korth vessel was at least 3 times bigger than the Vengeance. Their dark metal hulls were covered with weapon ports and strange spikes that made them look like something from a nightmare. "Captain, those ships are huge," Danny said with fear in his voice. "Our weapons might not even scratch them." Morrison stared at the scene in front of him. He had seen battle damage before, but this was different. This was not a war between soldiers. This was slaughter of innocent people who could not fight back. The Korth ships were taking their time, destroying everything slowly, like they enjoyed the killing. Amy Watson, the ship's medical officer, was scanning the planet's surface with her sensors. What she found made her sick to her stomach. Millions of life signs had been there 3 days ago when the attack started. Now there were only thousands left, scattered in small groups, hiding in caves and underground shelters. "Captain Morrison," Amy said quietly, "I am reading massive population loss on the surface. The Villani had cities with millions of people. Now most of those cities are just craters. The survivors are hiding wherever they can." Morrison felt rage building inside him like a fire. These Korth raiders were not just taking resources or territory. They were killing for pleasure. The intelligence reports had been right about one thing. The Korth were monsters who enjoyed causing pain and fear. Ryan Phillips was analyzing the Korth ships with his sensors. What he learned made the situation even worse. "Captain, these are not just raiders. My scans show slave cages built into their ships. They are taking Villani prisoners to sell in other parts of the galaxy." The biggest Korth ship detected the Vengeance and turned toward them. Morrison could see weapon ports opening along its hull like hungry mouths. A communication signal came from the alien vessel, and Lisa put it on the main screen. The alien that appeared was like nothing Morrison had ever seen. Commander Zektar looked like a cross between a shark and a spider. His skin was dark gray and covered with scars. Multiple eyes glowed red in his skull, and his mouth was full of sharp teeth. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Unknown vessel," Zektar said with amusement in his voice. "You are interrupting Korth business. Turn around and leave this system, or you will join the prey on the planet below." Morrison stood up from his captain's chair. He had dealt with bullies before, and he knew the only language they understood was strength. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Vengeance. You are attacking innocent civilians and taking slaves. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zektars. Multiple eyes focused on Morrison, and then the Korth commander began to laugh. It was a horrible sound that made everyone on the bridge feel sick. "Human," Zektar said between laughs. "I have never heard of your species. You must be new to this galaxy. Let me educate you about how things work out here." The Korth commander's expression changed to one of cruel pleasure. The strong take what they want from the weak. These plant-eating fools on the planet cannot fight back, so they belong to us now. Their world, their people, their lives are all ours to do as we please. Morrison felt his hands form into fists. "Not while I am here, they are not." Zektar looked confused for a moment, and then laughed even harder. One small ship against 12 Korth battlecruisers. Human, you are either very brave or very stupid. My ships have destroyed entire coalition fleets. What makes you think you can do anything to stop us? Morrison looked around his bridge at his crew. These men and women had trained for years to serve on a warship. They knew the risks when they signed up for this job. More importantly, they knew what was right and what was wrong. Pete, Morrison said to his tactical officer, target their lead ship. Load torpedo tubes 1 through 6 with quantum warheads. Pete Johnson had been waiting for that order. His fingers moved over his weapons controls with practiced skill. Tubes loaded and ready, Captain. All weapon systems are charged and standing by. Zektar watched the human ship's weapon ports open, and he felt a moment of confusion. Coalition ships usually tried to negotiate or retreat when faced with superior numbers. These humans seemed to actually want to fight. Human Captain, Zektar said with less amusement in his voice, "You cannot be serious. Your ship is outnumbered 12 to 1. Even if you damage one of my vessels, the others will destroy you. Think about your crew before you do something foolish." Morrison had thought about his crew. He had also thought about the children hiding in caves on the planet below while monsters hunted them for sport. He thought about the Vellani families that had been torn apart by Korth raiders. He thought about the innocent people who had sent out a desperate cry for help that nobody else would answer. "Commander Zektar," Morrison said in a voice as cold as space itself, "you made a mistake when you decided to prey on the helpless. You made an even bigger mistake when you threatened my ship. But your biggest mistake was assuming that humans think the same way you do." Zektar's eyes narrowed. Something in the human captain's voice made him nervous. He had threatened thousands of ships over the years, and captains always backed down when they realized how outmatched they were. This human was different. "What do you mean?" Zektar asked. Morrison smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You see, Commander, you think like a predator. You pick on victims who cannot fight back. You assume everyone else is either predator or prey, like you are. But humans are different. We are something you have never encountered before." Morrison walked closer to the main screen so Zektar could see his face clearly. "We are predators who choose to protect the prey. We are killers who fight for peace. We are monsters who hunt other monsters." Zektar felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in the human's eyes that reminded him of his own reflection when he was about to kill. But this was different. This human had the eyes of a killer, but he was using that killing instinct to protect others. "You are bluffing," Zektar said, but his voice was not as confident as before. "Amy," Morrison called to his medical officer without taking his eyes off Zektar, "how many Vellani life signs are you reading on the surface?" "Approximately 43,000, Captain," Amy replied. "Down from an estimated 8 million when the attack began." Morrison's expression did not change, but everyone on the bridge could feel the anger radiating from him like heat from a fire. "Commander Zektar, you have murdered over 7 million innocent people in 3 days. Children, families, people who never hurt anyone. You did it for profit and entertainment." Morrison took a deep breath, and when he spoke again, his voice was completely calm. "I want you to understand something very clearly. My species has spent thousands of years learning how to kill things that are bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than we are. We are very good at it." Zektar started to reply, but Morrison cut him off. "You have exactly 30 seconds to withdraw your ships and leave this system. If you are still here after that, I will show you why Earth is called a death world." The Korth commander's multiple eyes went wide with shock. Death worlds were legendary in the galaxy. Planets so dangerous that they created species too violent to be allowed into civilized space. He had heard stories, but never believed them. "Impossible," Zektar whispered. Deathworlders are myths, scary stories to frighten children. Morrison looked at his watch. 20 seconds, Commander. For the first time in his life, Zektar felt real fear. Zektar stared at Morrison through the communication screen. The human captain was counting down the seconds with the patience of a hunter waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Korth commander had threatened thousands of ships over his long career, but he had never met anyone who looked at him the way this human did. 10 seconds, Morrison said in the same calm voice. Zektar's warrior instincts told him to retreat. Something about this single human ship felt wrong. But he was the commander of 12 battlecruisers and the most feared raider in this sector of the galaxy. His reputation was built on never backing down from anyone. "You are insane," Zektar snarled at Morrison. "No single ship can fight a Korth fleet. I will destroy you and then finish killing every Vellani on that planet, just to teach other Deathworlders what happens when they interfere with the Korth." Morrison looked at his watch one more time. "Time is up, Commander." Zektar cut the communication and immediately began shouting orders to his fleet. "All ships surround the human vessel. Target their engines only. I want them alive so they can watch us finish our work on the planet below." The Korth battlecruisers moved into attack formation with the smooth coordination of pack hunters. Each ship was a kilometer long and armed with enough firepower to level a city. Their dark hulls reflected no light, making them look like holes in space itself. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Morrison's crew prepared for battle with the calm efficiency of people who had trained for this moment their entire careers. Pete Johnson's hands moved over his weapons, controls like a pianist playing a deadly song. Danny Cole adjusted their position to give them the best firing angles. Lisa Turner monitored enemy communications, while Amy Watson prepared the medical bay for casualties. "Captain," Pete reported, "all weapons are charged and ready. Quantum torpedoes loaded in tubes 1 through 6. Kinetic bombardment system is online. Plasma cannons are at full power." Morrison nodded and sat back in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew worked with the focused intensity of predators who had suddenly found themselves surrounded by prey. The Korth thought they were hunting a single lost ship. They had no idea they were about to encounter something the galaxy had never seen before. "Fire," Morrison ordered quietly. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for the next 1,000 years. The Vengeance did not fire warning shots or try to disable enemy engines. Instead, Pete Johnson unleashed every weapon system the ship carried in a coordinated barrage designed for one purpose: total destruction. 6 quantum torpedoes streaked toward the nearest Korth battlecruiser at nearly the speed of light. The alien ship's sensors detected the incoming weapons, but could not react fast enough to stop them. The torpedoes struck the Korth vessel's hull and detonated with the force of small suns. The battlecruiser simply vanished in a ball of white fire that lit up the entire system. Where a kilometer-long warship had been floating a second before, there was now only expanding gas and debris. Zektar watched one of his most powerful ships die and felt his blood turn to ice. Quantum torpedoes were theoretical weapons that Coalition scientists had been working on for decades. No one was supposed to have actually built them yet. "Impossible," Zektar whispered as his bridge crew stared at their sensors in shock. Second Korth ship tried to raise shields and return fire, but the humans were already targeting it. Pete Johnson had loaded the kinetic bombardment system with asteroids from the outer system. Each rock had been fitted with guidance systems and accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The guided asteroids struck the second battlecruiser like the fist of an angry god. The alien ship's armor, designed to withstand energy weapons, crumpled like paper under the kinetic impact. The vessel broke apart into 3 pieces that tumbled away into space, trailing atmosphere and bodies. All ships opened fire on the human vessel. Zektar screamed into his communication system. Kill them now, before they can reload. The remaining 10 Korth battlecruisers turned their massive weapon arrays toward the Vengeance and unleashed everything they had. Streams of plasma, particle beams, and explosive projectiles filled the space around the human ship with deadly energy. But Morrison had not survived 15 years of commanding warships by standing still in the fight. Danny, evasive maneuvers. Pattern Delta 7. The Vengeance twisted through space like a living thing, dodging between energy beams with impossible grace. The ship's advanced engines and inertial compensators allowed it to change direction in ways that would have torn apart any coalition vessel. Most of the Korth weapons missed completely. The few that did hit were absorbed by adaptive armor that had been designed to protect human ships from the deadly radiation and debris fields of Earth's solar system. What would have crippled a coalition vessel barely scratched the Vengeance's hull. "Return fire," Morrison ordered as they completed their evasive pattern. Pete Johnson had reloaded his torpedo tubes while they were dodging enemy fire. This time, he targeted 3 ships at once, sending 2 quantum torpedoes toward each battlecruiser. The Korth captains tried to maneuver their massive ships out of the way, but they were too big and slow to escape. 3 more Korth battlecruisers died in nuclear fire. Their crews had just enough time to realize they were completely outmatched before they were vaporized along with their ships. Zektar could not believe what he was seeing. Half his fleet was gone, and the human ship had not even been damaged. These Deathworlders fought like no species he had ever encountered. They did not try to capture ships or take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything that threatened them with ruthless efficiency. "Signal all remaining ships," Zektar ordered. "Full retreat. We are leaving this system immediately." But Morrison was not done with them yet. The Korth had murdered millions of innocent Villani, and they were not going to escape to do it again somewhere else. "Pete, target their engines. Do not let any of them reach hyperspace." The plasma cannons on the Vengeance fired in precise bursts. That cut through the engine sections of the fleeing Korth ships. Without engines, the massive battlecruisers became sitting targets. Pete Johnson methodically destroyed them one by one with torpedo strikes until only Zektar's flagship remained. The Korth commander found himself alone, his entire fleet destroyed by a single human ship in less than 20 minutes. Everything he had believed about warfare, about strength, about the natural order of the galaxy had been shattered. Morrison opened a communication channel to Zektar's ship. The Korth commander appeared on screen again, but now he looked like a broken creature. His multiple eyes were wide with terror, and his hands shook as he gripped his command chair. "Commander Zektar," Morrison said in the same calm voice he had, used at the beginning of the battle, "you wanted to know what makes Deathworlders different from other species. The answer is simple. We do not fight for territory or resources or glory. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Zektar tried to speak, but no words came out. He had spent his entire life as the predator at the top of the food chain. Now he knew what it felt like to be prey. "Your ship is disabled," Morrison continued. "Your weapons are offline and your engines are destroyed. You have 2 choices. You can surrender and stand trial for the murder of millions of innocent people, or I can finish what I started." Zektar looked around his bridge at the few crew, members who had survived the battle. They were all staring at him with fear and desperation. For the first time in his life, the great Korth raider had to choose between death and capture. "I surrender," Zektar whispered. Morrison nodded to Pete Johnson, who powered down the ship's weapons. "Lisa, send a message to the Villani survivors. On the surface. Tell them the threat is over, and we are sending down rescue teams." As the Vengeance moved toward the damaged planet, Morrison thought about what had just happened. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the only way that mattered. They had shown that Deathworlders were not myths or legends. They were real, they were here, and they would not tolerate the strong preying on the weak. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about the children of Earth. News of the battle spread through Galactic Coalition space faster than any ship could travel. Within hours, every major government, military organization, and news network in the galaxy knew that a single human vessel had destroyed an entire Korth raiding fleet. The impossible had happened, and no one knew what it meant. Admiral Marcus Bennett sat in his office at Earth Command, reading Morrison's battle report for the 5th time. The numbers still did not make sense. 12 Korth battle cruisers destroyed. In 20 minutes, with 0 human casualties. It was the kind of victory that military historians would study for centuries. Bennett's aide, Carol Price, knocked on his door and entered with a worried expression on her face. "Admiral, we are receiving an emergency communication from the Galactic Coalition High Council. They want to speak with you immediately." Bennett nodded and activated his communication system. The holographic projector displayed the image of Council. Speaker Therian, a being that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider. The alien's compound eyes were agitated, and its mandibles clicked nervously as it spoke. "Admiral Bennett," Therian said in its translated voice, "we must discuss the actions of your Captain Morrison immediately. What he has done violates every treaty and agreement between our species." Bennett leaned back in his chair and studied the alien's body language. He had spent months learning to read coalition expressions, and Therian was clearly terrified. "Speaker." Therian, Captain Morrison responded to a distress call from innocent civilians under attack. He did exactly what any decent person would do. Therian's mandibles clicked faster. "Your captain destroyed 12 Korth vessels. Do you understand what this means? The Korth Collective has been raiding Coalition space for over 500 years. Our greatest fleets have never been able to stop them. How did one human ship accomplish what we could not?" Bennett smiled slightly. The Coalition had always treated humans like dangerous primitives who needed to be contained. Now they were learning that their assumptions about human military capabilities had been completely wrong. "Speaker Therian, you asked us to stay isolated because you considered us too violent for civilized space. Perhaps you should have asked yourselves why a species becomes that violent." The alien leader's compound eyes focused on Bennett with obvious fear. "Admiral, the Korth Collective is demanding an explanation for the destruction of their fleet. They are threatening to attack Coalition worlds in retaliation. You must recall Captain Morrison immediately and turn him over to us for punishment." Bennett's expression hardened. The Coalition's response was exactly what he had expected. When faced with a real threat, they wanted to sacrifice others to protect themselves. It was the behavior of prey animals, not the leaders of a galactic civilization. "Speaker Therian," Bennett said firmly, "Captain Morrison will not be turned over to anyone. He saved the lives of innocent people, while your coalition ignored their pleas for help. If the Korth want revenge, they are welcome to come and try to take it." Therian's entire body shook with agitation. "Admiral, you do not understand the situation. The Korth have thousands of ships. If they unite against us, they could destroy every coalition world. We cannot fight them in open warfare." Bennett stood up from his desk and walked closer to the holographic display. "And why is that, Speaker? You have millions of ships spread across hundreds of star systems. Your technology is advanced, and your resources are vast. Why can you not defend your own people?" Therian hesitated before answering. "The Coalition exists to promote peace and cooperation. Our ships are designed for exploration and trade, not warfare. We have not fought a real war in over 1,000 years." Bennett nodded. That was the answer he had been expecting. The Coalition species had become so civilized that they had forgotten how to fight for their own survival. They had police forces to maintain order within their own societies, but no real military to defend against external threats. Then perhaps it is time you learned, Bennett said quietly. The galaxy is not a safe place, Speaker Therian. There are predators out there who will always prey on the weak. You can either learn to fight them, or you can continue to hide behind walls while innocent people die. Therian's mandibles stopped clicking, and the alien seemed to consider Bennett's words carefully. What are you suggesting, Admiral? Bennett walked back to his desk and activated another display showing star charts of coalition space. Red markers indicated recent Korth attacks, while blue markers showed coalition worlds. The pattern was clear to anyone who looked at it objectively. I am suggesting that the coalition has a choice to make, Bennett said. You can continue to appease raiders and sacrifice innocent species to protect yourselves, or you can work with humanity to build real defenses. We know how to fight. You know how to organize. Together, we might be able to bring real peace to this galaxy. Therian studied the star charts for several minutes without speaking. Finally, the alien leader looked back at Bennett with what might have been hope in its compound eyes. What would such cooperation require? Bennett smiled. First, you stop treating humans like dangerous animals that need to be caged. We are not your enemies, Speaker. We are the solution to your problem. Second, you give us access to coalition space, so we can hunt down raiders like the Korth before they attack more innocent worlds. And in return? Therian asked. In return, humanity will do what we do best, Bennett replied. We will stand between the predators and their prey. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we will teach the galaxy that there are still species willing to fight for what is right. Therian's mandibles began clicking again, but this time it seemed more thoughtful than nervous. The Council will need time to consider your proposal, Admiral. This represents a fundamental change in how we approach galactic security. Bennett nodded. Take all the time you need, Speaker. But while you are considering, remember that somewhere out there, another innocent species might be sending out distress call right now. The question is whether anyone will answer it. After Therian ended the communication, Bennett turned to Carol Price, who had been listening to the entire conversation. Carol, I want you to prepare a full intelligence briefing on Korth activities in coalition space. If we are going to hunt them, we need to know where they are hiding. Price nodded and made notes on her tablet. Admiral, do you really think the coalition will agree to work with us? They have been trying to keep us isolated since first contact. Bennett looked out the window of his office at Earth's busy orbital shipyards. Construction crews were working around the clock to build new warships based on the lessons learned from Morrison's battle with the Korth. Humanity was preparing for war, whether the coalition wanted their help or not. They will agree because they have no choice, Bennett said. The coalition has spent so long avoiding conflict that they have forgotten how to defend themselves. They need us more than we need them. Price finished her notes and looked up at Bennett. What about Captain Morrison and his crew? The coalition is demanding his arrest. Bennett's expression became grim. Morrison and his crew are heroes who saved millions of lives. Anyone who wants to arrest them will have to go through the entire Terran defense fleet first. As if summoned by their conversation, Bennett's communication system activated again. This time, the call was coming from a Korth vessel on the edge of coalition space. The alien that appeared on screen was even more frightening than Zektar had been. Human Admiral, the Korth leader said in a voice like grinding metal. I am War, leader Krekstar of the Korth Collective. Your species has interfered in our hunting grounds for the last time. Bennett studied the alien's scarred face and multiple rows of teeth. War leader, your hunting days are over. Any Korth ship that attacks innocent civilians will be destroyed, just like Zektar's fleet. Krekstar laughed, a sound that made Bennett's skin crawl. You destroyed one small raiding fleet, Deathworlder. The Korth Collective has thousands of ships. We have been the terror of this galaxy for centuries. You cannot stop us all. Bennett's expression did not change. Watch us. Krekstar's laugh died, and his eyes narrowed. Very well, human. You want war? We will give you war. But know this. When we are done with you, we will hunt down every member of your species and make them pay for your arrogance. Bennett stood up slowly and looked directly into the alien's eyes. War Leader Krekstar, let me make something very clear. Humanity did not climb to the top of evolution's ladder by running from bullies. We got there by being better predators than anything else on our world. You think you are dangerous? You have never met a Deathworlder who was really angry. The communication ended, and Bennett turned to Price with a grim smile. Carol, send a message to all Earth Command vessels. Tell them to prepare for full military deployment. The Korth want a war, and humanity is going to give them one they will. Never forget. 3 days after the Coalition's ultimatum and the Korth declaration of war, sensors throughout civilized space detected something that would be remembered as the moment everything changed. At the edge of Coalition territory, space itself seemed to tear open as hundreds of ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. A Terran defense fleet had arrived. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched her ships take their positions. 200 vessels stretched out in formation behind her flagship, each one a testament to humanity's mastery of warfare. Unlike the sleek, elegant ships of the Coalition, human vessels looked like what they were: weapons designed by predators who had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing. The Retribution itself was a monument to human engineering and determination. At 3 kilometers long, it dwarfed even the largest Korth battlecruiser. Its angular hull was scarred from decades of testing in Earth's asteroid fields and radiation zones. Every line of the ship spoke of violence barely contained, like a sword forged in the fires of hell itself. Admiral, reported Communications Officer Bill Rogers, we are receiving signals from Coalition defense platforms throughout this sector. They are demanding we identify ourselves and state our intentions. Sullivan smiled grimly as she looked at the tactical display showing Coalition positions. Their defense platforms were impressive looking, but she could see they were designed more for show than for actual combat. Pretty toys built by a civilization that had forgotten what real war looked like. Open a channel to all Coalition worlds in this sector, Sullivan ordered. Broadcast on all frequencies. The communication system activated, and Sullivan's image was transmitted to every planet, space station, and ship within 50 light years. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in battles that would have broken lesser species. This is Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Fleet. 3 days ago, the Galactic Coalition demanded that humanity surrender one of our captains for the crime of saving innocent lives. The Korth Collective declared war on our species for destroying their murderers and slavers. Both demands are rejected. Sullivan paused to let her words sink in across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, Coalition leaders watched their screens with growing fear and amazement. They had expected humanity to back down when faced with superior numbers, just like every other species they knew. Let me be clear about something. Sullivan continued. Humanity will not be caged, contained, or controlled by anyone. We will answer distress calls from innocent people under attack. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And if anyone, Coalition or Korth, threatens peaceful beings under our protection, they will learn why Earth is called a death world. On the bridge of a Coalition defense platform, Admiral Vextar of the Centauri Defense Force watched the human fleet with growing terror. Each human ship bristled with weapons he did not recognize. Their formations spoke of military discipline that had been tested in real combat, not the parade ground maneuvers the Coalition was used to. "Admiral Sullivan," Vextar transmitted, "you are in violation of Coalition space. Withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to respond with military action." Sullivan's laugh was heard across the galaxy. It was not a cruel sound, but rather the amusement of someone who had been threatened by a child with a toy sword. "Admiral Vextar, your defense platforms are armed with energy weapons designed for police actions against civilian targets. My ships carry quantum torpedoes that can crack moons. Please do not force me to demonstrate the difference." Vextar looked at his tactical officer, who was frantically scanning the human vessels. What they found made the Coalition admiral's blood run cold. The human ships were not just armed with advanced weapons. They were floating fortresses designed to survive in combat conditions that would destroy any Coalition vessel. "Admiral," Vextar's tactical officer whispered, "their armor composition is unlike anything in our databases. Their ships appear to be built to operate in environments that would kill our crews just from radiation exposure." Sullivan could hear the fear in Vextar's voice when he spoke again. "Admiral Sullivan, what do you want?" "What I want is very simple," Sullivan replied. "I want the galaxy to understand that the age of appeasement is over. For too long, civilized species have hidden behind walls while raiders and slavers prey on the innocent. That ends now." At that moment, another group of ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system. But these were not human vessels. The dark, angular hulls and weapon-covered surfaces marked them immediately as Korth warships. War leader Krexstar had brought 500 battlecruisers to end the human threat once and for all. "Human Admiral," Krexstar's voice crackled across, "all communication frequencies. You have made a mistake coming here. Your single ship was lucky against one of our raiding fleets. But now you face the true might of the Korth Collective. Surrender, and we will make your deaths quick." Sullivan studied the Korth fleet on her tactical display. 500 ships was indeed impressive by galactic standards. It was the largest military force assembled in this sector for over a century. Under normal circumstances, it would be enough to conquer a dozen star systems, but these were not normal circumstances. These Korth raiders were about to learn what happened when predators met apex predators. "War leader Krexstar," Sullivan said calmly, "you made several errors in your assumptions. First, you assumed that Captain Morrison's victory was luck rather than skill. Second, you assumed that one human ship represented the limit of our capabilities. Third, and most importantly, you assumed that we think like you do." Sullivan gestured to her tactical officer, who began transmitting targeting data to every ship. In the human fleet, the Terran vessels spread out into attack formation with the smooth precision of a pack of wolves surrounding their prey. "You see, Krexstar, you are a predator who preys on the weak because it is easy and profitable. But humans are different. We are predators who hunt other predators because they need to be stopped. You have terrorized this galaxy for centuries, taking slaves and murdering innocents for profit. That ends today." Krexstar's multiple eyes went wide as he realized what was about to happen. The human fleet was not positioning for defense or negotiation. They were preparing to destroy his entire force, just like Morrison had destroyed Zetar's ships. "All Korth vessels, attack the human fleet," Krexstar screamed into his communication system. "Kill them all before they can organize their assault." The Korth battlecruisers opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and explosive projectiles filled space between the two fleets. It was the kind of devastating barrage that could have sterilized a planet. The human ships absorbed the attack without even slowing down. Their adaptive armor and deflector shields had been designed to protect vessels operating in the hell of Earth's solar system, where radiation storms could strip flesh from bone. Korth weapons, designed to intimidate prey species, barely scratched their hulls. "Return fire," Sullivan ordered quietly. What followed was not a battle in any sense that the galaxy would recognize. It was an extermination. The human fleet unleashed. Weapons that Coalition scientists had only theorized about. Quantum torpedoes that could tear holes in space itself. Kinetic projectiles that struck with the force of asteroids. Plasma cannons that could cut through any known material. Korth battlecruisers died by the dozens, their hulls cracking open like eggs hit by hammers. War leader Krekstar watched his mighty fleet being systematically destroyed and felt true terror for the first time in his long life. "Impossible," Krekstar whispered as another wave of his ships vanished in nuclear fire. "No species can be this powerful. You are supposed to be primitives from a death world." Sullivan's voice reached him through the chaos of battle. "We are Deathworlders. Krekstar, do you know what that means? It means we evolved on a planet so dangerous that only the strongest, smartest, and most adaptable creatures could survive. Earth made us into killers, but we chose to become protectors instead. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 37 minutes. When it was over, the entire Korth fleet was either destroyed or drifting powerless in space. Not a single human ship had been lost, and only 3 had suffered minor damage. Sullivan opened a communication channel that reached every world in Coalition space. "This is Admiral Sullivan to all civilized species in the galaxy. The Korth Collective is finished as a threat to innocent life. Any surviving raiders who continue to prey on peaceful worlds will be hunted down and destroyed." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "But this is not just about the Korth. For too long, the strong have preyed upon the weak, while the civilized look the other way. That ends now. Humanity offers protection to any species that wants to live in peace. We will stand between the predators and their prey, no matter the cost." Admiral Vextar found his voice after several minutes of stunned silence. "Admiral Sullivan, the Coalition Council wishes to discuss terms of cooperation between our species." Sullivan smiled. "Admiral Vextar, I believe that would be an excellent idea. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to remember what real peace looks like." Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance as it moved through the dark space between stars. The heavy cruiser had been patrolling the outer rim for 3 months now, and Jake was getting tired of seeing nothing but empty space and distant planets that nobody cared about. His crew was good, though, and they kept the ship running smooth, even when there was nothing exciting to do. Lisa Parker sat at her station checking weapon systems for the 100th time that week. She was the best tactical officer Jake had ever worked with, and she never let her guard down even when they were just flying through empty space. Danny Rodriguez was down in engineering, making sure the engine stayed happy, and Kate Sullivan was in the medical bay, reading about alien diseases that she hoped she would never have to treat. The year was 2387, and humans had been part of the Galactic Federation for almost 200 years now. Most aliens still thought humans were crazy, dangerous monsters who somehow learned to build spaceships. Earth was called a Class 12 death world, which meant it was one of the most dangerous planets anyone had ever found. Most Federation species would die just from breathing Earth air or drinking Earth water. Jake did not mind that other aliens were scared of humans. It meant they usually left human ships alone and did not try to start fights. The Federation had thousands of different alien species, but most of them were peaceful and spent their time making art or studying math or growing pretty flowers. They thought war was something that only crazy species did. The communication system made a loud beeping sound, and Lisa looked up from her weapons. "Commander, we are getting a signal from the Zephyrian system. It sounds like a distress call." Jake walked over to the main screen. The Zephyrians were one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy. They were tall and thin with blue skin, and they spent most of their time solving math problems that took other species years to figure out. They had never fought a war in their entire history, and their military was just ceremonial guards who carried weapons that did not even work. Put it through Lisa. The screen showed a Zephyrian male who looked terrified. His usually calm face was twisted with fear, and his voice was shaking. This is Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian homeworld. We are under attack by an unknown hostile force. Billions of our people are already dead. Our cities are burning and our children are crying. The attackers call themselves the Krillian Horde, and they are killing everything that moves. Jake felt his stomach get tight. He had never seen a Zephyrian look scared before. These aliens were so peaceful that they did not even have words for murder or war in their language until they met other species. Continued talking, and his voice got more desperate. The Federation Council has voted for strategic withdrawal. They are abandoning us to die. 17 other worlds have already fallen to these monsters. They do not just kill us, they consume us. They feed on our fear and our pain. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. We are sending this to Earth because you are the only species that knows how to fight. Please help us. The transmission ended, and the bridge got very quiet. Jake looked at his crew and saw that they all had the same expression on their faces. They were angry. Lisa had her hands clenched into fists, and Danny had come up from engineering to listen to the message. Kate was standing in the doorway with tears in her eyes. "Commander, what are orders?" Lisa asked. Jake thought about it for a moment. The Federation had rules about interfering with other species conflicts. Earth Command would probably tell them to stay away and let the aliens handle their own problems. But these were not warriors attacking other warriors. This was something evil attacking people who could not fight back. Set course for the Zephyrian system. Maximum speed. "Sir, that will take us into hostile territory without backup," Danny said. "I know. Send a message to Earth Command and tell them what we are doing. Tell them we need reinforcements, but we are." Not waiting for permission, the ship turned toward the Zephyrian system and started moving faster. Jake sat in his command chair and thought about what they might find when they got there. The Zephyrians had never hurt anyone in their entire history. Their worst crime was maybe forgetting to water someone's plants. They did not deserve whatever was happening to them. Lisa ran scans of their weapon systems and made sure everything was ready for combat. The Defiance was a human warship built for fighting in the worst conditions possible. It had armor that could stop most alien weapons, and guns that could crack open asteroids. But Jake did not know what they would be fighting when they got to the Zephyrian system. Kate came to the bridge with medical supplies and emergency kits. "If we are going into a war zone, we should be ready to treat wounded aliens. I studied Zephyrian biology, but I have never treated combat injuries before. You will do fine, Kate. You always do." Danny reported that the engines were running at full power and they would reach the Zephyrian system in 18 hours. Jake ordered the crew to get some rest because they might not get another chance for a while. But he stayed on the bridge, looking at the stars and thinking about the fear in Veltar's voice. He had been in combat before, but always against other military forces who knew what they were getting into. Pirates and raiders who chose to fight and accepted the risks. This was different. This was innocent people being attacked by something that fed on their suffering. The communication system beeped again, and Jake hoped it was another message from the Zephyrians saying they were safe. Instead, it was Admiral Susan Blake from Earth Defense Command. Her face appeared on the screen, and she looked worried. "Commander Morrison, what do you think you are doing? You cannot just fly into alien space without orders." Admiral, we received a distress call from peaceful aliens who are being slaughtered. The Federation is abandoning them, and we might be their only hope. The Federation has protocols for these situations, Jake. We cannot risk a diplomatic incident by interfering. Admiral, with respect, the Federation protocols are letting innocent people die while politicians argue about paperwork. These aliens asked us for help specifically. They know we are the only species that can fight. Blake was quiet for a moment. Jake could see her thinking about the political problems this would cause. Earth was already isolated because other species feared humans. Starting a war would make things much worse. Send me everything you have about this Krillian horde. I need to know what we might be dealing with. Yes, Admiral. But we are not turning back. Those aliens asked for help, and we are going to help them. Blake nodded slowly. I know, Jake. That is what makes us human. Just try not to start a galactic war. The transmission ended, and Jake felt a little better. Blake would send help even if she had to argue with every politician on Earth to do it. The Defiance continued toward the Zephyrian system, and Jake hoped they would not be too late to save anyone. Lisa checked their weapons again and reported that everything was ready. Danny made sure the engines could handle combat maneuvers. Kate prepared the medical bay for alien patients. The crew was ready to fight, even though they did not know what they would be fighting. Jake looked at the stars ahead and made a promise to himself. Whatever these Krillians were, and whatever they wanted, they would not get it easily. The Zephyrians had asked for help, and humans did not abandon people who asked for help. That was what made them different from the rest of the galaxy. The ship flew through space toward whatever was waiting for them in the Zephyrian system.